Hello, hello, hello. You have reached the law office of Don Dennis, where we talk about content that is designed to help you grow your business and protect your ideas so that you can get paid and not played out of the money that rightfully belongs to you. As always, everything that I discuss is rated R for real and not PG because I'm not here to play any games. I appreciate you watching, and I have to remind our subscribers and our viewers that no attorney-client relationship is formed with anyone just because they're watching this presentation. Now, getting into the topic today, we are talking about the Monique situation with Netflix. On Tuesday, Monique settled her lawsuit against Netflix. So what exactly happened? Well, she filed a lawsuit. So what are we talking about when you file a lawsuit? We're talking about you have a complaint with someone saying that they violated the law and therefore you need to be compensated for it, or you need something to happen. You need something to start or stop. So what is it like to file a lawsuit against someone? It's kind of like when you are in charge of a roller coaster at a Six Flags roller coaster or theme park. You tell someone they have to sit in a seat, they get on the ride, you strap them in real tight, and as the controller of that ride, if that's where you're located, you can control how fast it goes, whether it goes side to side, whether it goes up, whether it goes down, and when it starts going in circles and loops and other things. And the person that you strapped into the ride, the defendant, the person that you're suing, obviously they were not planning on having to go on this roller coaster ride, and they want to get off as soon as possible. So what do they do to get off this ride, to get out of this lawsuit? They're filing paperwork with the court, telling the judge, which is like the owner or the head manager at Six Flags, hey, come over to this ride, tell the controller that you have here to stop this ride immediately. One such tactic is file a motion to dismiss, a motion to throw this lawsuit out. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But that's akin to what we're talking about when a lawsuit is filed. So Monique filed a lawsuit against Netflix. So what was the lawsuit about? Well, Monique said that when they approached her, when she spoke with them concerning doing a 1-hour comedy special, that they offered her $500,000. And they said that if you agree to this deal, we're going to own all of the copyrights and the audio rights to the deal. Well, she didn't agree to it. So she protested it. She said it was unfair and that they were discriminating against her with respect to what they offered her. And then she said in her complaint, they were discriminating against her by giving her such a lowball offer to even begin. So just the mere fact that you approached me with an offer of this type is discrimination and it's not fair. She said, and what did she base this off of? Well, she said, look, Netflix, when you've been dealing with other comedians, you usually make them an offer and then you negotiate back and forth with the comedian. You guys agree to an amount of money and then a deal is struck and a contract is signed. And over time, customarily, you increase your offer. So if you first started off offering $1 million, normally it goes up to several million or some other offer or some other parts of the deal that are acceptable to both sides. And with me, Netflix didn't do that. Monique said with me, Netflix said, here's your offer. You don't like it? Too bad. We're done negotiating. And so what Monique said is, look, that's not consistent with how you typically do things with other comedians. And I'm not just going to make a blanket overgeneralization or just throw something out there. I'm going to give you some specific names where I'm showing that your practices are inconsistent. For example, the way you handled your negotiation with Dave Chappelle, famous comedian, the way you handled your negotiation with Chris Rock and Amy Schumer. In all of those situations, you made them an offer and you listened to them and entertained their counter offer before a final agreement was set. And for all of those comedians, they got millions and millions of dollars. So for you to offer me something of only $500,000, it's discrimination. And in fact, I'm not saying it's discrimination against me just because I'm Black. I'm saying it's discrimination against me because I'm Black and a female. And if I allow this to go on, and if I don't say anything, Monique said her position is that Black female comedians will be systematically underpaid, meaning that you're going to do this all the time and underpay Black female comedians, and she is ready to take a stand. So what's the first step she did? She filed a lawsuit. Well, what does it mean? It means you file a complaint is what the form is called. So it's called a complaint. I'm complaining about something to the court because they have authority under the law to make something happen. She sued for retaliation and discrimination. Well, what is discrimination? We hear people say I'm being discriminated all the time. Well, under the law, there are different definitions based on what type of lawsuit you're filing. But in general, discrimination means that similarly situated people are not being treated the same way. So you treat some people one way and give them certain rights and privileges, and you treat other people a different way. Here, the category that Monique was making a distinction about were female Black comedians. Now, anyone can sue for any reason they want, but you have to have legal authority. You have to have something that you're basing your lawsuit off of. It can't just be because I feel a certain way. It has to either be a court case or case law based on, what judges have decided, or it has to be a law that's in the books. So that's what she found to bring a case. However, there's some issues with that, and we're going to get into that. Why exactly in this situation, it was a new area of law, because there's not necessarily something that she could base this off of. And so what Netflix ended up saying was, look, she doesn't even have a case. She doesn't even have adequate legal authority. She can't point to a specific case. She can't point to a specific law that says what we did is wrong. And so this happens all the time. Think about it. Back in the 1940s, there wasn't the internet. No one was buying things online. So if someone back then, based on the laws that were available, said, hey, there's this new thing called the internet. I bought something online, I never got my package, or I checked a box and now they're sending me mail all the time I didn't request, they're violating my rights, or they didn't keep their side of the bargain. Well, what happens is when you have situations like the internet or Instagram or social media and things happen online and we don't have laws in place for them, courts are not going to automatically just throw the lawsuit out and say, hey, you couldn't find a case. You don't have a law in the books, so you have nothing to talk about. What they do is they have to consider this and think about it and say, you know what? Maybe there isn't something, but this is similar to something else that we do have a case for, and we're going to call this a new area of law that may need to be examined. And that's how the court treated it. So Netflix made all those arguments. They said, look, we need to get off of this roller coaster. And so what they did was they filed a motion to dismiss. What is a motion to dismiss? What we're saying is a lawsuit has been filed. We haven't got to court yet. However, a motion to dismiss basically says, look, let's assume everything Netflix filed this motion to dismiss. And they're saying, look, let's assume everything Monique said is true. Yes, we didn't negotiate with her. Yes, we said we're not going to engage in anything else dealing with her. But even if all that's true, we didn't break the law. So the case should be thrown out because she has nothing to talk about. It's as if a police officer tried to pull you over, you're sitting in your car, you don't have your seatbelt on, and the police walk up to you and say, look, I'm giving you a ticket because you don't have a seatbelt on. Well, what does the law say? The law says you have to have a seatbelt on while you're driving. So if you fight the ticket and go to court, we can assume everything the police officer said is true. Yes, it's true I was in my car. Yes, it's true I was behind my driver's wheel. Yes, it's true I didn't have my seatbelt on. But the mere fact that the law says you have to be driving without a seatbelt in order to get a ticket means that there's no case here, there's no charge, and this case should be, and it has to be thrown out. And that's what Netflix tried to do. However, it didn't work. In general, what we have to remember is, as I say all the time, most lawsuits never go to trial. Most lawsuits settle, or something happens or is thrown out for some reason or another before the trial ever happens. In fact, on over 80 and sometimes over 90% of the times when people file a lawsuit, it never makes it to trial. So this is standard, a part of the process. Nevertheless, the judge reviewed Netflix's motion, and the judge said, look, yeah, this is a new legal theory that she's bringing up here. However, Netflix's failure to negotiate an opening offer in good faith, consistent with what they normally do, what their customary practice is, could constitute adverse employment action for the purposes of what she's saying, that they're retaliating against her. And in addition, the judge said Netflix's actions are likely to adversely and materially affect her ability to advance in her career. So therefore, the judge says, well, hold on a minute. We're not throwing this lawsuit out. I think it has merit. I think it needs to be heard. So we're going to allow it to proceed. The longer a lawsuit goes on and another party tries to get the lawsuit dismissed and it can't get dismissed, it can't get thrown out, typically that means the more valuable the lawsuit is worth, the more it has merit, the more likely something positive could happen on behalf of the person. So what ended up happening? Netflix had to look at that court's decision. And when they came away from that, and they might have been thinking, hey, we're going to get that lawsuit thrown out, and it didn't work. Wow, maybe Monique has a point. There is a possibility she might win if this goes to trial. So maybe rather than take our chances, we'll settle this. And on Tuesday, June the 14th, both parties submitted a joint stipulation, which is a joint agreement. We're going to send it to the court that we're going to dismiss this lawsuit. We're going to settle this lawsuit out of court. We don't need to go any further. We can resolve this amongst ourselves. We'll each agree to pay our own attorney's fees and own costs getting up to this point. Typically, a settlement means that some form of compensation will be paid in order to settle this and allow Monique to get out of this lawsuit. So what can we take away from this? What can you take away? What can you apply to your business and your dealings? A few things. First of all, a lot of people say they want to sue someone. They want to go to court, and it's not about money. It's about principle. Even if that's correct, and you're not so much concerned with a specific dollar amount, but you want to send a message to someone or some business that they shouldn't mistreat people or they shouldn't do these things or they were wrong for what they did, it's going to cost money to prove the principle you're trying to share. So money is always going to be involved, whether you're paying legal fees, court costs, or the attorney's fees to do the work. You're going to have money to prove your point. In this situation, Monique put up the money to prove her point and follow the case through. Sometimes people want to prove a point, but they don't have all of the money it might take. When you're suing a major company like Netflix or something else, they have attorneys and they have large budgets for litigation. So you have to carefully consider that before you bring the lawsuit, if in fact you're saying it's about principle. In addition, another takeaway is the time it takes to get to trial. You don't file a lawsuit on Monday and go to court on Tuesday. It can take years to get to court, and you have to be prepared and have the mental wherewithal to stand through and follow through all the way to it. And Monique showed that she did that. Also, throughout this case, on a few different occasions, Monique made a statement to the press about why she was doing what she was doing, and Netflix made a statement. You have to calculate that in when you're suing major entities that you may need public relations or an attorney to speak on your behalf so as to properly frame the story in the media and in the public, especially if you have a potential jury that will be called to deal with the case. In addition, why would someone settle this early? Because there's uncertainty at trial. You never know how a judge is thinking or how a judge might decide a case or how a jury might decide a case. So there is value in settling cases sometimes, despite the fact that you might not want to prematurely. And lastly, pay close attention to what your customary business practices are. So if you have an online business, for example, and your policy says we ship products in a week, and then you consistently do that with everyone, and then you have a few customers where you don't, well, if they sue you because you've caused them problems and damages by not shipping their things out, they're going to use what you do against you. What your stated policy is, they're going to bring that up to show that you violated. So whatever your customary practices are, you have to remain consistent. In this situation, Monique was able to articulate to the court, customarily with Amy Schumer, with Dave Chappelle, with Chris Rock, they get in good faith negotiations with each other and come to a reasonable conclusion. But with me, they didn't do that. Therefore, it smells like, it looks like, it feels like discrimination. And that's why I'm bringing this lawsuit. And it's hard to get around things when you have evidence like that that shows otherwise. So in this situation, we applaud Monique for following through all the way and proving that she was standing up for a principle. She paid money out of her pocket to follow through on that principle. And we see the results. The takeaways, as I said, is that you have to be ready when you file a lawsuit for everything that comes with it. And you have to carefully think about what legal theories you're going to bring, whether they're based on the law that's on the books or whether they're based on cases that have been decided. And otherwise, you have to think and do the research carefully. If you drive by any library almost any day of the week, you can always find a parking space because people spend very little time studying and researching. So you have to make up in your mind what you're doing with your business. If you have a legal dispute, you look into it carefully so that you know once you start this roller coaster ride, you know you're on good track and on good footing to make sure it goes the way you want it to go, through the ups, through the downs, and through the turnarounds the whole way through. Again, thank you for subscribing. Please like this video. Please share this video with anyone and everyone that you know so that we can continue to grow the channel. I appreciate you and have a great day.